So our report from punishment to prevention actually provides solid evidence now to demonstrate the intersection between poverty, inequality and the criminal justice system and the pathways into that. Very often people aren't given a choice. You know, these are survival tactics. They're criminalised from a very early age because of the place that they're from, because of their gender and because of their ethnicity. So this report actually puts in place concrete recommendations to address it from a whole of government approach. We need to invest in people, we need to invest in communities rather than continue to pour money into a prison system that addresses none of the underlying issues that we see here. This report is really important for IPRT to actually demonstrate what is needed from a structural and systemic basis.
This is something that we all know. Anybody who works in the sector, who lives in a community that's experienced deprivation, knows that poverty and deprivation have a serious impact on people being criminalised. But to have an evidence base is really important, because if we want evidence-based policy, it needs to come from an evidence base. So our approach is to take living and lived experience as expertise. It is expertise, and the people closest to an issue are always the ones who know how to respond to it and how to fix things. So we approach this from a socially engaged arts perspective. So the people's contributions, the literature review that we did that is based on the international evidence, plays one part. We have qualitative experience of people that plays another. And then we have the artistic piece, which just communicates the strength of these arguments and people's experience in a way that I think people will receive in a new way.
When working with people who've had these types of experiences, oftentimes there's an issue around anonymity, right? Where there's a concern around speaking out about these issues, right? And that comes from labelling and stigma and all of that is put onto people. So they have oftentimes they can be afraid about talking out. And the art, what that does is it allows them a certain level of protection, if they want, that they can have a certain level of protection, which they can put what they need to say out into the world in a way that captures people's attention, but still protects them, because they're not the one getting up and speaking or putting their name to something,
It's so wonderful to see this report launched today from the Irish Penal Reform Trust. It makes really key recommendations around the kind of practical changes we can make in terms of policies and frontline services that can help to reduce the amount of suffering and harm that happens to individuals and communities, because so often they are locked out of services that would keep them well and happy and would keep them out of the criminal justice system.
What I feel is so important about this research is we're taking that collective knowledge that we already have and we're putting it in hard data to give to people that is unquestionable now, and something needs to change policy-wise.
This report is really important in that it describes in real plain English, through lived experience, what that mechanism is between growing up in poverty, between growing up in disadvantaged or deprived communities, and that relationship then with criminalisation and criminality later in life.
It's not really telling us anything that we didn't already know. Many of the statistics that have been produced in it about the likelihood of people from certain deprived areas coming before the courts or ending up in prison are the same now as they were 25 years ago when earlier research was done. I'm reminded of the need to make choices at every level, at political level, at community level, what resources we're going to provide to prevent poverty arising, to enable people to escape from poverty, and then to deal with people who come before the criminal justice system, who found themselves in prison, how to exit the criminal justice system and be supported.